Hi, bestie. This story is gonna be a long one. Okay, so this is what we're starting with today. Oh, can you see? I already prepped the nails, everything. So let's get into it. Most of y'all besties know that my mom was a nun. Okay, this is not a secret. This is well known. She's a very religious woman. I'm talking about the headpiece, full on, like nun, like a nun you see. That was my mom. She quite literally married Jesus. Yes, she did. So she was in the convent for many years. Okay, I think she left her house when she was 16 years old. Girl, put yourself in a 16-year-old shoes. She loved Jesus if she's willing to leave her house at 16 to go to the convent. And she got out of the convent in her mid-20s. The only reason why she left the convent was because she missed her mom, not because she didn't believe anymore or anything like that. And that is when she met my dad. Hence why I'm here and my mom's no longer in the convent. If it was up to her though, she would have been in the convent her whole life. So since she's Catholic, she raised me as a super good Catholic girl. Y'all know I grew up very poor, but she found a way to put me through Catholic school on full scholarship, girl. Okay, like my mom did everything in her power to make sure that I was a good Catholic girl. She did just that, okay, and it worked for a while. So from kinder through 8th, I went to the same school. It was a private Catholic school. It was a very small school. There were about like 200 and something kids in that school. Some of our teachers were nuns. Our principal was a nun. And so since we had the church right next to our school, we would have mass at times. Like if you got chosen to read the word of God, it was like a big thing. Like everyone was like, oh my God, like you would get nervous, you get excited. It was, you know, that type of school. And I remember when I got chosen, I was like, oh my God, like my mom's gonna be so proud of me. Oh, and growing up with a mom like this, bestie, I did not live for me. I lived for my mom. My mom's happiness to me was so important. It still is, obviously, but at that time, she was my whole world because I didn't know anything else. Like I was very sheltered, girl. It was home, school, back to home, church, home, school. That was my whole life. I wasn't allowed to have friends. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. I was very, very sheltered. God was my best friend. And my mom was, because I won't say is, because she's changed a lot since then, but still very much very Catholic. But she's less intense. And I remember telling my mom, like, Mom, like I want a diary. And she's like, what the hell is that? This one time we went to the mall and she bought it for me, and I remember her telling me, you don't put Dear Diary in there. And I was like, what? She's like, no, you're not gonna do Dear Diary, you're gonna put Dear God. And I was like, yes, Mommy, yes, this book is gonna be for me and God. She's like, yeah, you're gonna be talking to thinking about it now, I'm like, oh my God. I remember looking at this diary. I had it, girl. I don't know if I still have it, but I had it up until recently. And I remember looking at the pages, and every page it was like, Dear God. And I would tell God like what happened that day, you know. And since obviously my school would say the same thing as my mom and the rest of my family, like my aunts, my uncles, because everybody's religious, okay, girl. This isn't just like my mom thing. Like all of her sisters and brothers, and excluding one or two, are super religious, more than my mom, which I know you're like, girl, what you mean you could be more religious than my mom? Yeah, more religious than my mom. And so I remember like growing up hearing all these things, and I'm like, yeah, facts. Everything they would say, I would take it as facts, because I'm like, yeah, my family's saying that, my school is saying that. There was no question in my world that I'm like, they're not correct, or I shouldn't think that way, you know. It wasn't like that. It was like what they say goes, is truth, and that's that. I remember going to a pro-life march. They would have these huge groups, girl. Like there was a lot of us with like signs for like pro-life, with images that like I will never ever forget. Like it's engraved in here. And they would put out this narrative, and I would take it in like, yeah. And so I remember growing up being like, abortion's bad, like it's a sin, and how could they do these to these babies? Anybody else that thinks differently is wrong, and they're sinners, and they're going to hell. Like that was how I was brought up. So for the longest time, I didn't question my religion. I was like, yeah, like I'm a diehard Catholic. But once I started getting to like 8th grade, if I had a different opinion than her or my family or school, it was like Satan's talking to me and is trying to confuse me to take me to hell. and be a sinner. For the longest time, even if I had like different opinions, I would just keep it to myself. I'm like, ain't no way like I'm gonna be talking about this, because growing up, girl, virginity was everything. Like, it was engraved in here that if I wasn't a virgin when I got married, I was worth nothing. Like, that's how I was brought up. Okay, wow, a lot of things are a lot of things are coming out that I forgot, like, this was a thing, girl. And I remember my aunts and uncles would get their children purity rings. How the hell was my mom gonna afford a purity ring? But I remember being like, Mom, I want one. I want a purity ring. Like, this is so cool. Man, it's crazy saying this out loud as an adult, you know what I mean? But that's how it was. I remember my mom telling me, like, you have to cover up or else you're making people sin looking at you. And this was told to me when I was little. Hearing this, it will do a lot to you, girl. And they had the mentality of like, oh yeah, if you're provoking, if you're showing, it's our fault if something happens. Like, it's a girl's fault if something happens. And I remember being like, how is that the girl's fault? Are we not human? Why are you dehumanizing us to a sexual object? We are responsible over people's dirty minds, you know what I mean? It's like, we're children. Why would you say this? So once I started questioning things, once I started having my own mind, my own opinions, my mom's favorite word became estás endemoniada, which means you have a demon inside of you, and hence why you're pushing back. I started getting scared because, girl, I was also shown videos, very graphic videos of exorcisms, you know, like scary shit, girl. And they would tell me like, these are real videos, like this is what demons are like. Ooh, just even talking about it, girl. Like, even though I'm like an atheist, this was very traumatic, okay? Very traumatic. So traumatic that I couldn't go to sleep by myself for years, girl. Like, years. Since we didn't have money growing up, I never had my own room. I would always have to share a room with my mom. So I got so accustomed sleeping in the same bed as my mom that when I would get scared over like thinking of these demons and thinking of Satan and all these stories that my mom would tell me growing up to like scare the shit out of me, to make sure that I wasn't doing anything wrong in life. And I remember feeling comfort like being next to my mom, but still being scared shitless. I didn't have my own room until I was in college, girl. So even then, while I was literally a grown adult, I couldn't sleep by myself. I would end up going to my mom's bed because I was so terrified, because the moment I would try to fall asleep, I would get sleep paralysis, and all I could think was like, these demons are here to get me. And I remember, girl, going to confession and telling the priest, I don't want to believe in God. And he's like, what? Why don't you want to believe in God? And I'm like, because it's scary, because I'm scared of Satan. Like, dead ass, I was telling him these things. And he's like, well, you shouldn't be scared of Satan because God is with you. And I'm like, but yeah, but if I'm more with God, that means Satan is gonna want to get me even more. And that's terrifying, because I grew up with these stories that my aunts and my uncles and my mom would tell me that they experienced or that they knew about. If y'all ever want to know these stories, let me know. But they are scary, girl. Like, very scary. It was very traumatizing, especially because I was so young. Even as an adult, I couldn't shake off these stories. So I started questioning everything, and I realized that I no longer wanted to be part of the Catholic Church. And fast forward, I turned 18. My mom couldn't force me to go to church anymore. I didn't care what she said. I'm like, I'm 18. You're not going to force me to go to church. And I stopped going to church, because before then, we would go to church every Sunday, okay? If you missed a Sunday mass, you a sinner, you going to confession, okay? And you cannot receive Jesus' body, which is like the bread of Christ, and then the wine, which is his blood. But I would still take her to church because I knew it was important to her. And I would just wait in the parking lot for her. And I would just do other things on my phone. And, you know, because I still liked church. I didn't like mass, but I liked church. I like the piece of it, the aspect, the community. You know what I mean? But I just couldn't sit through a mass and listen to the priest say things that I did not agree with. And I would always have all of these leading up questions that no one could answer. So it would infuriate me more. So I just stopped going. And I remember asking my mom, why can't women be priests? Like, why is it that only men can be priests? And no one could ever really give me an answer without pointing out that men were superior than women, that women were meant to serve and men were meant to lead. So at the time, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm agnostic. And I was agnostic for a very long time. I ended up going to university. I was the first in my family to get a higher education degree. And girl, was that a letdown for my family. Yes, my mom was proud of me that I got my degree. Yes, this is what she wanted of me my whole life, right? That I do something for myself. But in everybody else's eyes, including hers, because my family ended up convincing her that going to university was the worst thing to happen because it brainwashed me and it separated me away from Christ. Because when I was going to university, I was way more vocal about my opinions anytime at like a family get together. I would be like, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. This is why. And I don't agree with you. And they're like, oh, it's because the school is brainwashing you. And I'm like, no, I'm just getting an education and I'm forming my own opinions. And I'm no longer just following blindly. But in their head, it's like, that's a liberal school. Like, this is why she thinks this way. And like, I was just like, okay, well, no, I've always thought this way. But I never said anything because of one time I decided to speak out and have my own opinion and finally tell my mom, like, I don't agree with you. All hell broke loose, girl, quite literally this time. So this one time, okay, I think I was in high school. My mom and I were in our room and I was on the bed just like, you know, whatever, talking to my mom, and we were having a great conversation, and then somehow homosexuality came up. And my mom's take on that, back then, it was very much like, homosexuality is a sin, you're going to hell, that is Satan's work, stuff like that. And I remember being like, Mom, I don't agree with you. I actually don't think there's anything wrong with homosexuality. Girl, I was really brave for saying that, but I was just so tired. You're supposed to be a loving person. Like, God is supposed to be a loving person. Why are you so judgmental? Hearing this, like, it seems so hypocritical to me that you're like, God here, God that, love here, love there, but you can't love your brothers and sisters just because they're different than you. You know what I mean? So I started going off being like, you know what? If God did create everything and he created everything perfectly, then why can't you accept people that are gay? Because God created them this way. They were born this way. It's not something they just chose. It's not something they could just turn off. Do you know what I mean? She didn't like this. She was just like, how dare you have your own opinions and contradict me and contradict the Lord. And I decided this day I was just not gonna back down, because usually I would back down like, okay, Mom, you know, because I could never win. At this time I was like, this is it. I'm ready to have this conversation. I'm ready to debate. I'm okay if my mom's disappointed in me, because I'm not disappointed in myself. I know that what I'm saying is not something bad and it shouldn't be bad. I myself I'm not gay, but I could put myself in their shoes, and can you imagine if I was, you know, and my mom was saying all these things, like how sad that would be for me. So that's all I kept thinking. How sad is it that some kids can't tell their parents how they feel because their parents are this way, you know? And you know, girl, at this time, I had already had 2 gay boyfriends, which I did not know, but I never blamed them for anything because I knew what it's like to grow up in a very conservative, very religious household, and I know how scary it can be to come out. So I was very empathetic towards them. So I remember like being like, I'm not backing down this time. And this is where it went down. The more she's pushing back, the more I'm pushing back. That day I chose violence. I started hitting her where it hurt. I'm over here like not backing down. I'm like, but what about this? And then she would come back with a comeback, and I'm like, but what about this? And she would come back with a comeback. And finally, until she started looking at me like this. I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, what is going on, girl? What you doing? And I'm like, who is she scared of? Cause it ain't me. She's not scared of her own daughter just because she has her own opinions, right? Like, what is going on? But I'm still not backing down because I still had my 2 cents to say, okay? So I keep going, and I start seeing tears forming in her eyes. And that's what... And she walks to the closet, and she comes out with this in her hand. If you know where this is going. She just starts. So while she's throwing holy water on me, I turn around because I'm getting drenched. She did not come to play. I turn around and now my face is facing the wall. Okay, my whole body's like fetal position facing the wall because I'm getting drenched, you know. So I'm just like, oh my god, what is going on? Like, it went from 0 to 100 real quick, Bessie. That's when I stopped feeling the water on me and I start hearing shuffling. But I'm still facing the wall because I don't know what she's gonna do, you know. I'm still processing, right? And so that's when I start hearing her chant. She's like, en el nombre del Padre, del Hijo y del Espíritu Santo, saca este demonio de mi hija. Either I cry or I laugh, and during this time I couldn't believe what was going on, so I start laughing. Not the best decision I made at the time. So I'm snickering because I'm just like, what the is going on? So I'm like, oh my god. And so she starts throwing more holy water. Okay, by this time it looked like I had just came out the pool. Okay, let's see, like her holy water was gone. She was going in grabbing another bottle because you know damn well she had more than one of these. And so when she started hearing me laugh, she took it as like my daughter's possessed. The demon in her is laughing like, ha ha ha, you're not gonna get rid of me. Ooh, just even talking about it, I guess. Ooh, oh my god, girl. Like, that's how you see it in these exorcist videos. That's what she was thinking. And so she's praying even faster and louder, and this was kind of making me panic a little inside because now I'm scared of her. Okay, so I could start feeling the corners of my lip curl up. Like, your girl was starting to smile because that's when the brilliant idea popped into my head. Like, what if we teach her a lesson? What if I actually give her something to be scared about, you know? Because I was just so fed up. It took everything in me, Bessie, everything in me to not turn around with a smile on my face. But all that was going through my head, I was like, I'm gonna give my mom a heart attack. My mom looked like she was ready to cry. Like, that's how scared she is of me. I can't do this to her because I knew if I did, I knew that was the end of me. Okay, she was gonna tell family was gonna send a priest. There was gonna be a real exorcism performed on me, even though my mom was already performing an exorcism on me. Once I finally decided, okay, let me turn around to see what the situation is, like what my mom's face looks like. This is so embarrassing. But she was literally like, en el nombre del Padre, del Hijo, del Espíritu Santo, vete de aquí, Satanás. Dead ass. I can't. I can't, girl. I still can't believe it. But this was literally her to me. So it went from like, hee hee ha ha, this was funny, okay, you can stop now, mom, to my mom is literally terrified of me. Or more like the demon inside of me. Because I was defending gay rights. Girl, I have never seen so much fear in my mom's eyes than that day. And the worst part is that she was scared of me. Or more like the demon inside of me. I was the goody two shoes. I had good grades. I never did anything wrong. Like, yeah, I had done some like stupid little kid shit here and there, but my mom was my whole world. Like, if she was not happy, I was not happy. So when I saw her and she had tears in her eyes and she was still throwing holy water and she was literally shielding herself from me, that broke me. I realized that this was very real for my mom. That's when I turned around back to the wall because I didn't want her to see the tears rolling down from my eyes. I started to cry, Bessie. I really did, because at that point I was just like so upset and disappointed with her. The moment I started crying, she stopped praying so loud and so fast. Because to her, that was me again. Like, that was the demon leaving my body and it was me again. And so she stopped being so fearful. I remember her talking to me so pissed off afterwards, looking at me like so disappointed. In the Catholic Church, if you get possessed, it's for a reason. It's because you did something wrong, so wrong that Satan was able to enter your body, or a demon was able to enter your body. So in her mind, I had done something bad that I allowed a demon to enter my body. So that was my turning point of going from agnostic to atheist. That exorcism she pulled on me, made me hate religion. It really did. Now I know that my family or my mom does not represent the church, but in my head, that's all I knew. I only knew diehard Catholics. So it made me hate the religion. It really did, because in my eyes was like, if these are the diehard Catholics and they believe this, it means the Catholic Church is this, and that. I'm like, if it weren't for religion, my mom wouldn't hate me, you know, because I honestly believe that she hated me because I didn't believe in God. In my young, impressionable brain, that's what I thought. And I one time found a crucifix under my bed. Okay, that's how convinced she was that I needed God, okay? And she was going to do anything in her power to put God in my life. It wasn't up until recently, like 2 years ago, that I finally got through her. It took a lot of tears, a lot of sweat, a lot of blood to get through to her, honest to God, bestie. And a bunch of really hard talks and discussions and therapy and all of that. Now, my mom understood that a lot of things that she said to me were wrong, but I can happily say now that my mom is not the same person she was before. And the OG besties from TikTok know that I was asked to promote a woman product for there, you know what I mean? And I was so scared to do it because I knew my family was going to find out, which then my mom was going to find out. And this is very taboo for super conservative Catholics, right? But I decided that I was going to live my life not to please my family, but to be true to myself, you know what I mean? So I remember doing it, and I remember this one time we got in an argument, and I was like, and you know what, Mom? I was like, I am proud of myself, and I also promoted a product for, you know, for the girls. And girl, I thought she was never going to talk to me ever again. On that day, it was like the whole world came caving down for her, right? But the day after, she started being so lovey-dovey. So she went from like being super toxic to being super showing me love. Because in her head, I'm missing love in my life, and that's why I'm acting out. But she and I are in a totally different headspace now. We're able to talk and not kill each other, you know what I mean? And since her relationship with me is a lot healthier, and she doesn't put religion down my throat 24/7, it's now like maybe once a month. My relationship with religion is a lot healthier too, and I think it's really great that people have their religion and they believe in God, you know, and they have faith. I think it's very important to have faith in anything, really. No hate to the besties that are religious or that are spiritual, you know, whatever the case is. I respect all religions, but this was just the way I was brought up made me hate it for so long because I had a lot of resentment towards it. But now I think it's beautiful, you know. It's not my cup of tea, but if my mom asks me like, hey, for my birthday I want you to come to church with me, or I want you to come to this exorcist convention thing at 3 a.m. in the morning, like, I'll do it, you know what I mean? Even though I'm like 20% agnostic sometimes and 80% atheist and other times, like, I still respect religion. I still think it's beautiful that people believe in God, and maybe one day I would love to believe in God. And I'm happy where I'm at and where my relationship is with my mom. She's a different person than she was before. I am too. You know, everything happens for a reason. I feel like all of that hurt and resentment we had towards each other, and by we I mean my mom and I, helped a lot for our relationship to be this close as it is now. There's beauty in having your own opinions. There's beauty in believing in yourself and in your beliefs and standing up for what you believe in, regardless of what society or regardless of what your family's telling you or friends. It's so important to have your own opinions, bestie, and to educate yourself and to not just believe everything and anything that someone tells you just because they're your loved ones. I'm not saying that they're always wrong or anything like that. No, there's a lot of truth to a lot of things that our family and friends tell us, but just don't be scared to form your own opinions. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so that was a story time of why I'm atheist and why my mom performed an exorcism on me. My mom is still super religious, but we've learned to respect each other's boundaries, and she no longer throws holy water on me, okay? But now every time I leave the house or something, she's just like, can I put holy water on you? And I'm like, yeah, Mom, you can, you know? So it's things like that where we respect each other. I have healed since then, okay? My mom understood that she hurt me a lot doing the things that she did while I was growing up, and the words that she chose, she realized that they hold a lot of power, a lot of meaning, and a lot of hurt. And she's grown and I've grown too. So on a good note, everything's good, all is good, things do get better, okay? And let me show you my final results. You know how the milk baths with flowers in it used to be super popular? That's what I tried doing on my nails. It didn't come out exactly how I wanted, but for my first try, not too bad. They could be better. Alright, bestie, I love you so much. Bye. See you next time.